Hello humans, Master Dinnerflex here, bringing you low quality content you deserve, and today I'm going to be going over a build of Fire Fist that I haven't seen anywhere else online, because this is actually Axis 3. Now, for those who have been playing a while, you'll know what Axis 3 means. But for those who are pretty new to the game and weren't around when the original Fire Fists were being played, Axis 3 was referring to the level 3 engine of Fire Fist, where you would constantly cycle out spirits, roosters, and leopards to make a bunch of horse princes, get a bunch of pluses, and just keep spamming it over and over again. Kind of like how Teller Knights did Altier Deneb. This did it, but it got like tools with it when you were doing that. So it was really interesting, and it was they actually, when Spirit first came out, it immediately went to 1 just because they wanted to prevent a deck like that. But now, in theory, this should be outdated, and people who are playing Fire Fist, they're playing the new Konami like combo version. So I decided to test that, and I learned that that deck is one of the worst decks I have ever played, and that deck has 1 to 2 playable hands in it. Any other situation, you do not have a playable hand. And I'm actually going to explain why. So, Elephant is not a good card because in order to use Elephant, you must have a fire formation, then have something that summons from hand, and then have an additional fire formation so the one you summon from hand actually has an effect. Because otherwise you are summoning a normal monster and getting rid of a fire formation. And that is really, really bad. That's a 4-card combo to put 2 monsters on, put 2 effect monsters on board. That's really bad. Panda, well, it's not terrible. The problem with Panda is it's not a starter. The only time it's a starter is with Raven, and Raven is an awful card unless you specifically have Panda. So those 2 cards aren't good unless you see them at the same time. And if you've seen the Konami combo version, when you see them at the same time, you can do insane stuff. But every other situation where you see one or the other, they're just bad. They really are. And then finally, Dragon as a 3 of. Like, Dragon is a really strong card. The issue is that it's a card you never, ever, ever want to draw. Dragon has the issue where it's an Altier, but it takes setup to use. Like, a lot of setup. Not just having something engrave, but having something engrave and either Eagle on board or 2 fire formations on board. So why would you ever want to draw that opening hand? And why would you play multiple? Like, I understand summoning it with Tiger King is cool. Summoning 2 with Tiger King is cool. But the Konami version is a perfect example of why just because something can combo doesn't mean it's optimal for it. And Fire Fist, I feel, are that absolute perfect example of that. Because that combo deck is unplayable unless you open, like I said, like the specific hands. Very specific hands, otherwise your deck doesn't play. You literally have no plays. So I decided I would go with a much nowhere near as powerful combo, but a substantially more consistent deck. And I felt like Axis 3 was a way to go with that. So let's get into the choices. Since we were playing Axis 3, we got Triple Spirit. When it's summoned, you can target 1 level 3 fire monster with 200 defense or less in your graveyard. So that's 3 of this, 3 of this, and 3 of this. So that's 9 monsters you can summon, and some of these put themselves in the graveyard, so that's great. And it can only be used for the synchro summon of a Beast Warrior, and the turn you use it, you can only attack with Beast Warriors, which is actually the only bad part about this card. Because it means you can't use things like Borreload or Boral Sword effectively, to the point where they're just not in this extra deck, because you can't really use them. Because if you're going to push for game with a Boral Sword, you could probably use Spirit that turn, so Yeah. But however, this card is just so good that you can just OTK with your other cards. And since this version isn't a combo version, it's actually a grindy grind out version. And what I mean by that is you are going to out resource your opponent to the point where they are at top decking one card to your like 10 or 12. Like that's how any game I win, that's how it goes down. Like they have no cards, I have infinite. And I feel like that's a much better way to play this deck because you don't. When you take out all the bricks, your cards are better. There's better quality in your pluses. So that's like just because you have a plus doesn't mean it's useful. And Fire Fist are like a perfect example of that. The fire formations do nothing without the monsters, and the monsters don't do anything without the fire formations. But when you're gaining so many of those cards, like they keep paying for themselves over and over and over again. So it's like you really grind them out if you play a version like this. Triple Leopard, the turn it's summoned, you contribute it to set a fire formation spell. And yeah, that's basically it. And it's really important because if you open this and this, it gets you to Tensu, and that's the automatic normal combo. And then we got Ram. This is actually a new one. And I think this is the best new one they've come up with. So when it's normal summoned, you can discard any card, target a fire formation you control, and then set a fire formation of any other fire formation from your deck with a different name than the one you targeted. So that's insane. Opening Ram Tinky is full combo. And if you open Ram Tinky Rooster, it's like your combo is +5 with like a bunch of follow-ups. So it legitimately insane. This card, well, it's unfortunate that it needs a fire formation for you to do the combo. When you do the combo with this guy, it's much more powerful. And then we got 3 Rooster. When he's special summoned by... Oh, and one final thing about Ram is when he's special summoned by the effect of a Fire Fist monster, you look in your graveyard and set a fire formation spell or trap from your deck that has a different name than any cards in your graveyard. Kind of like how Shizuku works. So if you have nothing in your graveyard, you can set anything. So that's really cool. It's also a really strong effect because you can summon this off of Spirit or Horse Prince. And then we got Triple Rooster. When it's special summoned by the effect of a Fire Fist monster, you can add 1 Fire Fist monster from your deck to your hand. Then his other effect is once per turn you can cycle 1 fire formation you have for a different fire formation. So that is actually really good because it's necessary for the combo, but when you have Eagle up, you're just setting more fire formations. Then we got Double Bear because this is a grind out version of the deck. Well, it sucks against like most of the meta. A lot of the times, like if you just have traps and a bear and you're backing it up over and over again and they just can't play, a lot of the time this card works. It's kind of funny. Like if you can keep stunning them with like Imperm, Strikes, Ash Blossoms, and they just can't get presence on board, like their little thing they summoned, you can just pop with bear, attack, get another fire formation, set up for next turn, or that might be enough to set up for the rest of the turn. Like, this card's actually really good, and it's also kind of cool to have an option to remove your Abyss Dweller off the board, because Abyss Dweller clogs one of your extra monster zones. That, like, turn 3 and turn 5, you're going to start really spamming the board with a bunch of Fire Fist. So, like, sometimes getting your Dweller off board so you can actually make useful things is pretty important. And then the last 2 Fire Fist monsters are really, really important for the turn 1 combo. 1 Dragon, which is kind of funny. Like, usually the normal builds play 3, but you only need 1. Like, if you actually look at this deck, so many cards recycle themselves. So many cards just search, recycle, summon. Like, you really don't need multiple of this. Even summoning it off Tiger King, like, I don't ever want to draw this card. Ever. Not unless I already have the combo. And if I already have the combo, then it's because I can still get to summon this 1 copy. So I don't think that it's very good to play multiple of this. And then we got 1 Buffalo, very important for any Fire Fist deck. Just a free summon. But actually, in the turn 1 combo, you actually summon them paying the cost. That way you can send a card you'll see later and dragon to summon dragon. And then finally, for the last of the engine cards, we got triple Ash Blossom. Now you might be thinking, how is this an engine card? That's because Horse Prince takes a fire tuner. So in the worst situations where you have Tensu, a Fire Fist, but no way to Spirit, you can still make Horse Prince and combo off. It's very rare, but it's an option, and it's really funny that it is. Then we got triple Called by the Grave. This deck has a really tough time against Ash Blossom. So it's really important to have a counter to it. And then we got triple Tenki, obvious. Triple Tensu, obvious. 2 Yugioh. Now, this might seem weird, but like I said, this is a grind out version where you're trying to just put your opponent on very few cards to your massive amount of cards. So whenever you are playing like that, you gotta actually look past turn 1. Like, you are never going to build a board with any variant of Fire Fist that will be good enough for you to just win next turn. That will never happen. Fire Fist in the full Wombo combo put up 2 disruptions. And I'm talking about the, like, Konami deck. Like, that one, when everything goes right, that puts up 2 disruptions. That's not... You can't win with that. So, you're actually... The actual way to play this deck is to grind your opponent out of resources. Just like how the old Fire Fist work. It's just now they got much more consistency, and their +2 combo that was broken back in the day is now +5 combo. So, yeah. And anyways, so what this does is you activate it, discard a Beast Warrior, destroy a face-up card. However, that's not why we play it, because if it was just to grind your opponent out, you might ask, why not go Yugioh instead? The most important thing about this card is that you can just activate it for no effect. You can just activate it and just do nothing with it. And that is extremely important because Yugioh needs to target something. And the reason that's important is because Fire Fist Ram, you have to have a fire formation up. If you do not have that, he doesn't do anything. So having a face-up fire formation is super important. And ultimately, your deck really loses to Tikaboo because your entire deck is Beast Warrior. So having a main deck out is insane. And for the last part of the fire formation spells, it's actually a combo piece. It's Stome. When you activate it, you can ritual summon a Beast Warrior. You will never use that, obviously. But when it's sent from the face-up field to the graveyard, you summon any Fire Fist from your graveyard. And that is really strong. And then we got... This is a flex spot. This could be literally anything, but I put Rekindling here. This card really sucks. You have to already be winning for it to work. And cards like that are just terrible. And then for the traps, we got Sento and Tensen. There are no other good fire formation traps. Like, this isn't even good, but there's just nothing else. And we got Triple Strike because this deck has... Like, the counter trap you search is really strong, but it doesn't deal with monster effects. So having Triple Strike, Triple Impermanence actually deals with monsters. And that's why this could also be Solemn Warning, because it also deals with monsters. But yeah, that's it for the main deck. Side deck doesn't really matter, except the only thing I will say is Yugioh Game 2, like going second, actually seems really good. Because against Orcust, when they set their Crescendo, you can just Yugioh it. They can't activate Crescendo in response like they can if they MST it. Like, they can't do anything with it. So it's just stuck there. And it's a face-up fire formation afterwards. But it's also against decks like Sky Striker or Guru. It's just another fire formation that hurts their back row. So yeah, pretty good. But that's the only thing I will say for the side deck. Like, that's something to consider. Everything else is up to you. For the extra deck, there are 7 very important cards I feel that you need for a deck that is trying to grind your opponent out. That is 2 Eagle, 2 Horse Prince, 2 Cardinal, and 1 Lion Emperor. These 7 cards put you in a situation where you will never run out of resources. You can play the game for the rest of time. Now you might be asking, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is, as long as you are cycling Cardinals and Lion Emperor with all your extra deck cards, you literally cannot run out of extra deck. You can summon, like, if a duel goes on forever, you can summon up to 5 or 6 Cardinals. And you might be asking, well, why is that important? Because this is a grindy deck. You are trying to stay in the game forever until your opponent runs out of steam. And if your engine, by default, doesn't run out of steam, then that's what you're going for. If you're going for a grind out strategy, you gotta have an engine that just doesn't end. And double Cardinal, 1 Lion Emperor, and having the utility of 2 of each of these means you can just keep playing over and over and over again, and they just constantly have to use cards on your cards. But it doesn't matter, because if every turn is a like +4, +5 for you, and then you're also minusing your opponent with cards like Cardinal and Bear and like some of the fire formations, like it can be really easy to kick your opponent out of the game like in a few turns. Even against like other grindy decks, like as long as you can get your setup going, you can really push decks really far behind. So yeah, these are the important 7. And then we got for the utility Fire Fist monsters, we got Peacock. Now you would say Borreload is better, but like I explained earlier with Spirit, you can only attack with Beast Warriors. But this, just taking 2 Fire Fist monsters to have like a semi-Borreload dragon is actually really nice. Like, I thought this card was terrible until I started using it. Like, there was a situation where I was like, oh, there's a Colossus. Let me see if I can out it with this. And then I outed it, and I was like, hey, that's not that bad. And then it, like, came up against other monsters. Not, like, with immunities, but just, like, take their thing, and then main phase 2, Unicore, another thing away, and they're, like, down to 1 to 2 cards, and then to your, like, 20,000. So, yeah, it's pretty nice. And then 1 Tiger King, having the skill drain option is really nice, and getting a plus off of his summon is also really nice. And then for the honorary Fire Fist monsters, I say honorary because they're Beast Warriors, so they can still attack under Spirit's effect. And that's Darumidal. If you're familiar with this, he blows up back row by blowing up one of your face-up back rows. But also he has another effect that I've used, where if he destroys anything by battle, you can recycle any Beast Warrior that's banished or in your graveyard. And again, since it's a grindy deck, you're just getting more resources by doing things you're already doing. And then Vulcan the Divine. Never used him. Any situation where you can use him, a lot of times summoning Horse Prince is better. But I like him for the option. It means you have a level 6 Synchro that has a utility. And then we got Owl Mirage. The only situation this comes up is where you open Ram and like Tenki Tensu or Spirit, but you don't discard something that Spirit can summon. Then you'll make this. It's really rare, but the times it comes up, it's actually pretty useful. Then we got Hita because it's a fire deck, and when it dies, it literally searches your entire engine, so that's pretty cool. Abyss Dweller for the turn 1 combo, and then Nightmare Unicorn specifically with Peacock. No Borals because of the Spirit restriction, but everything, like this extra deck, is 15 choices. Like, these are 15 cards. Like, nothing is cuttable. Like, everything in here, besides maybe Vulcan, I've used. Like, a lot. So, yeah, these are 15 really solid choices. But now, I'm going to get into, like, the optimal turn 1 combo. This is the 3-card combo, and the 3-card combo needs either Rooster or another Ram, a Tenki or Tensu, and then Ram. And what this is going to do is Ram is going... I'll just fast forward real quick so you guys can see it. We'll have Spirit, normal summon Ram, discard Rooster, summon Spirit, get another search, and then Rooster will get this. Rooster will cycle the Tenki for Domei. And then we're going to summon Horse Prince, and that's going to summon another Ram from the deck to set this back row, which I believe was the counter trap. And then we're going to link into Eagle to recycle our Tenki to send Buffalo to the grave. We're going to use Buffalo with cost to discard our dragon and send Domei to summon it. And then Domei will actually summon Dragon back. We'll use Dragon for free to summon Rooster. We will use Rooster for free. And then, like, Rooster will set another back row. So now we make Lion Emperor to recycle our Spirit, and now we'll make Abyss Dweller. So our 3 cards, so we have 2 more cards in hand, but our 3 cards have generated 8. And that being said, we have a Speller Trap, Counter Trap. We have a huge, like, we have a 1000 boost or anything, either of these 2 guys. We have an Abyss Dweller, so no graveyard effects. And then we have 2 follow-ups, in addition to the last 2 cards in our hand. So, like, it's not an impressive board. I want to compare it kind of like Salamangreat, where the board itself isn't impressive. The thing is that this is done next turn, and next turn, and next turn, until the point where you have run out of ways to deal with it. And that is awesome. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'm actually going to build this deck in real life. I have a good portion of the cards already. I picked them up, and if you guys want to see a real life deck profile, it's probably coming. But yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master Dinnerflex will take your soul.